Okay. Hey guys, Derek here.
Ross?
Yeah, we're both from America and we both have a lot of travel experience. I am living in Vietnam, but I have traveled throughout Asia and I've lived in different Asian countries. I've lived in Japan, China, Taiwan, Thailand, and then I visited Korea, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Laos. How about you?
Well, that is quite the repertoire. I am from the US, as you said. I live in Spain, but I've been living in Vietnam for a month, and I'll be here just another month, and then moving back to Spain. But I've only lived in Argentina and different areas in Spain. And I've traveled around the world, but living, I've only lived in those places, and the US, of course.
But you've lived around, you've traveled around Europe also, right?
Yes, I've been to France, Belgium, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Netherlands, Poland, I don't know if I said that, Slovakia, Hungary, Vatican.
So in this video I want to talk about the differences basically between Asia, which has been my experience, and Europe, which has been Ross's experience, okay? So just in general, what is your impression of Vietnam so far?
Life is I feel very safe here. I feel like there's a lot of activity. I feel like people are very hardworking. But one of the things I noticed off the bat was that the locals don't really hassle the tourists as much as I expected. I've been in other countries like Morocco and Africa, and I love Morocco. I love the people that I've met there. But it's a different style there's a lot of sort of bargaining and... So here in Vietnam, it was like the locals kind of didn't pay so much attention to the tourists, at least in Da Nang. So I thought that was kind of odd at first, but then refreshing. The food is great. They've got so much variety, tropical fruits, and I'm a vegetarian, so they have a lot of options for that. And yeah, and so easy to get around. And the livability level is very high, I think. That's my sensation.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about what I think is most important is the people. Can we compare the people? Okay, again, first impression, I've never been to Europe before. We're both Americans, so we know American culture versus Vietnamese culture or Asian culture. That's what I know. How would you... Okay, tell me some surprising cultural differences that you've seen.
Again, at first I was surprised at sort of the neutrality of people. Like, they weren't nice to you, but they weren't negative to you. And I saw this in one of your videos, actually. You mentioned this very thing. How in the U.S., we're very overly expressive. Even if you've seen somebody from, like, you haven't seen in a long time, like high school, or maybe somebody that went to high school with, but you weren't so close with them. But it's like you have to kind of pretend like they're so important to you because the pressure it's like awkward. So what people normally do in that scenario is they just avert their gaze and here I think it's like there's less of that, so it frees you. At first it's a shock. You're like, they're so neutral. They're not happy to see you hear about some people going to, like, I don't know, South Korea or other Asian countries, and people want to take a photo with you. You're like such a novelty that they're like, wow, and that doesn't happen in Da Nang.
That's true, yeah.
And do you want to add on something like that?
I mean, I was going to say that's true. That's good for me because I do have the thought of just staying in Vietnam forever. Of course, going back to see family in the U.S. sometimes. But if it were the case like that, where like everywhere I go, they want to take pictures with me. When I was in China, I had a lot of friends. I'm not saying that Chinese are not friendly. I think they're super friendly. But their motive, I felt, was a little bit off sometimes. I felt like they wanted to, like, show me off. Sometimes they want to show that they are, like, I don't know if it means that they're rich or that they're international to have a friend like me as their friend. But I like the idea that they're neutral and that like, they'll treat you like a human. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you think about it, if there's a quote that I like by Leonardo da Vinci, and he says, "It's impossible to love or to hate anything without first knowing what it is." And neutrality it makes the most sense when you don't know something or somebody. why are you angry at that person? You don't even know them. Why are you happy? You don't even know them. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders. You don't have to impress people. Yeah, it's really a relief. They don't seem to be as talkative as they don't seem to be conversationalists. Like they're just chatting, talking, as like in Spain. But they're not as loud. Like I was so surprised. I thought when I went to Saigon, I thought there was going to be a lot of people screaming and all, like, and that's like, it's a big city. It's got like how many million people? Like 5 million or something. So I expected just to be overwhelmed, and I was surprised at how quiet it was. Like for such a big city.
Okay.
And I think it goes to show like that people don't. Yeah, they're not as loud as in Spain. When I first arrived, I thought people were angry. I thought they were arguing. Like they can be talking about the weather, like no, pero mañana va a llover, sí, no sé qué, and like they're just having a normal conversation, but they're speaking that loudly.
Yeah.
And here I don't feel. I mean, yeah, sometimes you get some people like sales or like street vendors that maybe are the bambao,
Yeah.
but in general, you don't have so much volume. And then I don't think there's like I went with a group of people from here from Da Nang, and I was talking to another girl who's from the Philippines, but she was volunteering here, and she lives in Sri Lanka. But we were just chatting and stuff, and then one of the Vietnamese girls said, "You guys like to talk a lot," and so she just said it jokingly, but I think it kind of says the point of like, I don't think they chat so much, or maybe it's not about deep things. I don't know. That's my sensation.
Okay.
But you maybe have a different opinion?
This is something I haven't thought about much. Maybe because I'm used to Asia. I think in general in Asia, it's different. It's different than Europe. I would say the Vietnamese are actually more chatty and loud than, like, for example, Koreans and Japanese, from what I've seen. I feel like Vietnamese are very similar to Taiwanese in a way. Taiwanese is, Taiwan is, okay, if you're Chinese, Taiwan is China. Okay, now close your ears, Chinese people. Taiwan is next to China. Okay, and the Taiwanese people are like very calm, and it's a less developed country, and I do see a pattern with this, like how if it's a less developed country, in my opinion, people tend to act more like natural in a way, because if you think about it, there's more judgment when it gets more developed. It seems to be more developing of capitalism, which needs people to be less happy in order to get their money in a way. Like, you need this because if you want to impress women, you have to wear this cologne, and so then, or you have to wear this brand. So then everybody who doesn't have, like, if that brainwashing works, everybody who doesn't have that brand feels like they're going to be judged. That's just one example. And then the judgment starts, and, there's like more judgment based on this need for stuff or for whatever, I don't know.
Sure.
It's another topic. But, yeah, I feel like Vietnamese, in comparison to other Asian countries, except for Philippines, which I don't know about, I think they talk pretty much. They talk quite a lot.
Yeah, it's really all, like you say, you have a different experience with where you've been, and we're comparing it with different things. Yeah. But I will say, jumping off of the topic that you said, like talking about women, it was interesting to see that people are very neutral in their dress in general. I didn't, you walk outside and you don't, like, people are very just like, well, now with the sun, I mean, it's sunny here, so a lot of people are wearing this like full gloves and hat and sweatshirt and stuff. But you don't see many like women that are like showing off or dressed up. In Spain, like where I live in Malaga, it's sunny 320 days out of the year, and people love to dress up. Like, you don't go outside with like sweatpants and like, especially if it's a Friday, and even moms, like even people that are 50s and up, like they will put on their makeup, they'll go out, they'll dance, they'll have fun, and you see, I mean, men and women, but like you'll see women and like they'll look like models walking around. And here I don't see that many.
Yeah, actually, if you drive by, I say drive by because it's not typical for me to go inside, but there's these places where people go to drink and listen to music, which I've critiqued in another video. I don't want to get into that, but they listen to music and they drink in groups, and I drive by and I see that they're dressed up with like heels and skirts and stuff, the women. And actually, a funny story, I went to the countryside to a place called Bentre. I went to my friend's house during Tet holiday. I forgot what it was called. And I was so surprised. I got off the bus and my friend came to meet me, and she was wearing pajamas. Like, just like, you know how there's like a lot of like, I don't know if you've seen this, but Louis C.K. or like, what are those high fashion brands? Louis C.K., Gucci.
Wait, isn't Louis C.K. a comedian? I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy, but they had Gucci, Versace.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dolce
in Asia, they make these super cheap pajamas and like coats and stuff, and they just have a fake brand like Louis C.K. is a comedian. No. Louis
Vuitton. I was saying Louis C.K. is the comedian.
Yeah. No. Okay, Louis Vuitton, all this stuff. So it's very common in Vietnam. You'll see people wearing this, which I think is a negative thing about Vietnam. We can get into that later. But my friend came to meet me. She's wearing like pajamas in broad daylight, like on the street. And I'm like, why are you wearing that? And she's like, thought about it. And she's like, oh, that's funny that you asked me. Like, we just wear this around my city. I don't know if it was because it was the holiday, but I feel like, yeah, you go around to different people's houses, and they're all like kind of just wearing pajamas and like walking around all day. I think this is like holiday vibes, where they know they don't have to work. They know they're just going to be around their family. It is a very family-oriented culture, so maybe they just don't care and they just wear like pajamas or something.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of family, I've noticed that too, that the people that I've talked to, when they talk about their families, it seems in certain ways that, and I've also volunteered at a school or an academy, so I discovered that a lot of the things work here as they did in the U.S. maybe in my grandpa's era. Like, I don't want to get too controversial, but I've heard that corporal punishment is still practiced in some schools, so they still kind of hit the student. And I've also heard that there's a lot of tough love bordering on sometimes toxic relationships with a lot of the families. At least, like, there's a lot of pressure to be working or to be and there's, I've talked to several people that don't have the best or the most loving, caring, nurturing family lives. And I've also seen, I would say that another thing about people is I've seen like they're very work oriented here. They're work, and then a lot of times they live where they work, so they have like a laundromat, and that's their house.
Yeah.
And I think I was at a hotel where I think the owner, I like put two and two together, and like I think he's the owner, would just kind of walk around and work, and then he would like sleep on the couch of in the lobby.
Was it during the daylight or the night?
No, at night.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure he was. I didn't ask, but so, and then I've been to restaurants and where you feel like you're walking into somebody's kitchen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. There is a lot of mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Where they live, where they work. That's true.
Yeah.
Is it different in Spain?
There are some people that have maybe like a small. Actually, I have a friend that's a tattoo artist, and he does have his little tattoo parlor office in his apartment, and he actually lives. So it's like you walk up to his apartment and you go to the left, and that's his tattoo office, and then you go to the right, and that's his apartment. And he actually lives above his parents. That is a common thing. My brother-in-law too. Their family lives above my parents-in-law. Like, so that's really common in Spain.
Yeah.
They move up or they move right or left. Like they stay with the family. So family oriented too. But if I'm completely honest, I've noticed something there and here, and I've talked to this girl from the Philippines too, and she told me like it's kind of like you said about the friends from China. Like when you romanticize, you see something first, the cultural difference, you romanticize it, and you think, oh, well, they just love their family more than us.
Yeah.
And, we've got the other extreme where, America has the culture of perhaps not taking care of the elderly as much. But then you kind of dig deeper and talk to the people, and you find out, oh, I feel obligated to do this, and my parents make me feel like this negative way, and it's like, oh, so it's not actually, Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, there's more things I can say about other people, but one last thing I'll say is when they are, like, if you're at a restaurant, if you're at a cafe, if you're at a store, you feel like they respect you. Like, there is that neutrality, but there's not, I don't know, like, they're kind, and they're not like, have a great day, but they're just like, you feel normal, you feel respected, you don't feel like, I've gone to places where, like Barcelona, for example, just getting so controversial and so over tourism, and also the political stuff, the political unrest, and the history they have, and there's just so much animosity, there's so much hostility with the foreigner, and they'll serve you, but they'll look at you like, and I don't feel that here. I expected sort of like the locals to love or to hate the tourist, and I did not expect neutrality. And I've talked to a couple people that say they prefer Thailand over Vietnam because they felt that Thai people were more welcoming. They said that Vietnamese people were more, but you go to the Sun Tra market, the very touristy places, and you do get that feel of like hassling the tourist. And then I talked to a guy who was in Hoi An and say no photo, no, unless you're going to pay, So it becomes a whole business charade. Yeah. And that's one thing I love about here. Yeah. Is they haven't completely transformed into this amusement park deal. Like, you go to Mexico. I went to Mexico for a friend's wedding, and it was great, like amazing. But a lot of times you felt like you're being treated artificially. Like they call you like usted, and like instead of, or like joven, like a young person or something. Like, and I know that was like a hotel, but like we went on this like booze cruise, this like little. Yeah, they take you on a tour, and then all you can drink, and there's like snacks, and they put on the sombreros, and tequila shots, and really hamming it up. And then it's kind of chicken and egg, because you have people that criticize these sort of belligerent tourists that are superficial, but then you have these places that depend on tourism, and that they think the tourist wants that, so they give them this artificial thing. Yeah. And Venice is also, because like all these big touristy places. That's another topic, but I also, I appreciate that about the people here in general. They're just, they're nice, but not overly nice.
I think also for me, maybe it's my personality, but I'm very direct, and I love it when people are direct, and I don't like fake stuff. Like, I was in Japan, and it was just like super, I could go off on that, but it's like, always the people are not direct, never direct. There's always a going around the curve, And I think being direct is it says a lot about how relaxed people feel around you and how sincere they are. I think you'll agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Like sincerity, I think, is a word to describe Vietnamese people, I feel. And like coming from Thailand, coming from some other countries, when I lived here for the first 3 months, I met some people and I felt like they were sincere, but I was kind of waiting for that to crash, you know what I mean? I was waiting for these... Facade. I was waiting for this facade to be revealed, for the truth to be revealed, that they just want ABC. But it never was. And there's still people that, like, especially in the South, they're super friendly. There's still people that just video call me out of the blue, like, hey, how are you? What are you doing? Come and drink with us when you're back in Saigon, or, And I've talked about that in my other videos, but I was like, I don't understand. You don't want anything from me. You just enjoy my company, I guess, or you're just friendly. And I thought about doing a video where I have a POV camera and I walk around and I grab Vietnamese people and I'm like, why are you so friendly? And they're just like, I don't know. I'm Vietnamese. That's not answering the question.
I don't know. I would hesitate on that one, depending on who you come into contact with.
I wouldn't really do it. I would tell them that I'm going to do it. Yeah. Just do it with friends or something.
I'm definitely coming to to like that and appreciate that a lot. I will say one caveat: in the restaurants, when you order coffee and you stay for a long time and they give you more tea, I was like, this is really cool. I was like, but I kind of found out that's kind of so you give them a tip. I don't know if you have any opinion on that already.
I've never heard that before.
No?
No. Who told you that?
A girl from Da Nang.
Really?
She said, "Oh yeah, well it's kind of like they want you to kind of give you a tip, but."
Write in the comments what you guys think.
Yeah,
is that for a tip? I've never heard that before. I've never heard of tipping in Vietnam before.
No?
I've only heard of foreigners coming that give tips, and then other foreigners are like, "Hey, don't do that. You're gonna just make everybody expect a tip." I don't think it's a tipping culture.
Okay. I would much rather have it not, because I feel so good. Because in the U.S. you're sitting at a place and then maybe, or even in Spain, like if you're kind of overstaying your welcome and you're not buying anything, it's like, hey. So I thought they were gonna do that to me, and they come and the girl just fills up the tea. Like, wow! Not only is this you're giving me free tea, you're refilling it. Thank you.
Yeah. I've never felt like they wanted a tip for doing that. I mean, if you dig deep down to like, why are they really doing it? Maybe they don't really care. I mean, they probably don't at the end of the day. They probably just want to have good service so that you'll come back. You know what I mean? But like something I was going to say about the fake thing. In America, there's this tip thing, right? And one thing that drove me crazy, I was in LA, and a tip is meant to be for the server. And they started implementing this thing, like they have these kiosks in Subway, McDonald's, all these like big chain like poison food stores, right? And you pay with a credit card, and then it's like, how much do you want to tip? And then it's like 10%, 15%. And then like you have to find the button that says don't tip, right? No tip, and it make you feel guilty, right? But I was tipping for a while, and then I asked the guy, I'm like, is this tip going to you? And they're like, no, it's not. So you're basically tipping the corporation.
Wow.
You're tipping the corporation. I'm like, what? What is this?
Wow.
Yeah, and that's like, what is that, right?
Yeah.
How could they get away with that? But I was also going to talk about how in the restaurants, I don't like the tipping thing because I like I said, I like real, I like direct. I don't like when people are just trying to get something from you by acting friendly.
Yeah.
And it's a common thing in America, the restaurants. You go to the restaurant, and somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, my name's Sarah, I'll be your... Okay, let's do a little... Let's do a little play, okay? You're the guy. You can just act like you're the customer.
Okay, I'm the customer.
Hi, my name is Derek. How are you today?
Oh, hello. Yeah, good.
Yeah, beautiful weather.
Yeah, it's nice out today.
Did you find this place? How did you find this place?
We come here. We're from here, so yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, my name is Derek, and I'll be your server today. Yes.
All right, thank
If
you.
you ever need anything, just let me know. And you can take your time looking at the menu. And then I leave, and I come back. Did you get your... And I write it down. And then I leave, and I stop by, and I'm like, are you enjoying your food?
How's it feeling over here?
How is your everything?
It's like it's a very intimate. Like, I'll be taking care of you today. Oh, you're taking care of me. It's like right. And then, can I get you started with anything? We got half price margaritas and like that's one thing that I will say about Vietnam and Spain. Like, there's just like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And in Spain, that you tip if it's really good, you put like $1. And I was a waiter. Maybe you were too.
No.
So you feel like that's what you have to do. You got to be this dance monkey, and the more you just like, hey, the more tips you're gonna make. So it's crazy. Because I give this example to people all the time because it's so refreshing not to have that. But then as a waiter, I can
And actually, if I compare another extreme, which is funny, in Hong Kong they have so many people. It's such a small island. So they have all of their customers already. Their problem is getting you to order quickly and then giving you and making you eat quickly and drink quickly and get out. And also in Morocco. In, what's that place next to Hong Kong? Doesn't matter.
Macau,
yeah. They'll be like, what do you want? Like rudely. and you'll be like, I'm like, quickly, and then you tell them, and they leave, and they give it to you, and you eat, and they're like, quickly, and if you sit after after you finish, they'll be like, you go, get out of here. They're like, get out of here.
Wow.
Yeah, so like if you think about human behavior, man, it's funny. And then also I was in Japan, considered the top customer service in the world, right? And it's like, okay, on the surface, I don't know who made that essay or whatever, that survey, but on the surface, okay, they're saying all these super polite, robotic stuff, very long, oh, customer, customer, are you happy? Thank you so much. And they say this very polite, and they're like, in Japan it's considered polite to not look at the eyes, so they look at the neck, and they're like, yes, customer, yes, and they look away, and yes, yeah, like this. And they also speak with a high voice, so they raise their voice to be more polite, like, oh, customer, even the men. And for me, it was just cringe. It was just, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like it's my fault that they have to suffer like this.
Yeah.
So it was not the best customer service, in my opinion.
That's how I felt a little bit in Mexico when I was in the hotel for the wedding, my friend's wedding. Like a worker would be coming into the elevator. Like I would be going in the elevator, like, oh, you can come. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it forces you to be this, like, what am I, some emperor? And
yeah.
But I guess the Hong Kong thing, it's like the dark side of sincerity now. Like, because that's really I don't want you here. I got a business. Eat and get out,
Yeah.
But it's funny because, the check, as far as America versus Spain, is like, they do that kind of in America. Whenever you're ready, no rush, but like they see you're done and they'll put the check. In Spain, you've got to like holler down the waiter to make them come. Here I haven't noticed any difficulty. I mean, you do get the waiter's attention, but over there, wow, squeaky wheel gets the grease. A lot of the restaurants are full in Spain, full of people, and you've really gotta be like I was working in a high school, and they had a little cafe in the high school like patio area, and I would go, and there'd be all these high schoolers, blah, 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 and they speak so loud, like, Tío, no sé qué, blah, 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 and like, I'll have a sandwich with tortilla, and then Paco, dame uno de ese que no tanto, and like he'll give it to the other guy, the kid that was after me, because he's so. Or like I won't get to the counter. I won't get to because I'm waiting my turn. And you've gotta. But then I go back to the U.S. and I'm at a bar with my brother, and I'm like, we'll do 2 beers here, and my brother's like, dude, you don't like yell at the bartender. Like he's like, or I'm with a friend at a cafe, and he's like, you're screaming, you're yelling, stop yelling.
Right.
And sorry,
You're screaming.
like counterculture shock. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, maybe we just talk about one more thing. Yeah, learning Spanish, or perhaps your first impression about Spanish versus Vietnamese. I can say that for me, I've lived in different Asian countries. Probably Japanese was the easiest as an American to like say and pronounce and stuff, but the grammar's a little harder. But for a lot of Americans, Chinese is super hard. But for me, Vietnamese has been the hardest because not only do you have the tones, reading is probably the easier part because they're using an alphabet, but there's some things that you do with your mouth. So in Vietnamese, you're using your mouth in a way that I've never used before. Like you have to go like no, and you push air and it's like no, like this. So that means NGOC. You write that. In American says ngok, ngok, right? But in Vietnamese that's ngok.
Or phum.
Yeah.
Phum.
Yeah. Sounds like a grenade launcher.
Yeah. Phum. And it just landed right, or like a
In your
bambao is like comes up and phum, it's right there. You didn't let it out. Well, first of all, thanks to you, I went to the first Vietnamese English exchange, and it kind of destroyed my hopes of. I think it's a compliment though on your part, because it showed me the real, like what it is to really learn the language. I was doing some Duolingo. Well, first I'll talk a little bit about my Spanish. So I started in high school and then studied it in college, and that was my major. And I was conversational, and I had girlfriend in college from Colombia, and I was in Colombia for a month, and I studied in Argentina, so I had a lot of time and desire. I think you really have to have desire to learn a language. You have a reason. But I definitely learned most of it just being abroad. But I've been in Spain now for over 10 years, and I've been in Vietnam for a month. And I've also had to deal with other stuff like getting my feet on the ground with my projects, with my work. So I think in an ideal world, what I would love to do if I wave a magic wand and had all the finances in order and had all this stuff in order, I probably would just jump completely in and tell my family and friends that I'm going to be away from my phone for at least a week and go with Vietnamese people and speak 100% Vietnamese. 100%. That would be amazing. Overwhelming. I did like a 15-minute conversation with a Vietnamese girl and had her say like, I was just like, just speak to me. I'm not going to understand you, but speak to me like I'm a little baby and I don't understand. And I actually understood more than I thought. Like, she's like, do you like coffee? Yes, I like coffee. But but I would say the difference is, it's a different level. It's a different level of difficulty with pronunciation. With Spanish you have to learn the formal you and the informal you, which we had in English before, thou and you, but we got rid of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, thou was our informal you. Art really? Thou happy? It sounds, we use it now like it's the formal one, but it was the informal.
Really?
Yeah, I mean you can Google that. Your audience can look at that to fact check it. But
interesting.
But we just took that out, and now we just do you. In Spain, they just usually they just do the informal. But in Latin America and South America, when I was there, like in Colombia, my girlfriend at the time was like, you can't address other guys as like the informal you. You've got to address them as like the formal. And like swearing there, I was like, she was like, you're swearing like a Colombian girl. You can't you can't say like shucks. You've got to say the real word, because that's what men do.
Yeah.
And it's really like when you're learning a language. This is why I love language learning. You're stepping into a different world, and you're it's so much more than just words and sentences. It's a totally different paradigm, mentality, a way of seeing the world, and that's the fun of it. It's like Avatar. You get to like enter, and you become like a different person when you're speaking each language. Like there's so many different nuances to me when I'm speaking Spanish, which is English.
Yeah.
And with Vietnamese, it was just like the one thing I'll say is like how they address themselves as like he or she, but then different ages based on if they're talking to an older person or younger person or a woman or a man. And I see on your channel that you're doing that. You're speaking it and talking to locals, so I tell that to everybody, like, if you can learn the language, try to talk to the locals.
Sure.
I think it's hard for a lot of foreigners because we identify with other expats, with other people that are abroad, because like I say, humans love familiarity and novelty, and they're two polar opposites. But when you meet a digital nomad or an expat, you've got a fusion because they're a new person, and if they're from Germany or if they're from France or from South America, like, oh, so they're new. I don't know everything about you, but you also speak English and you're also doing the same experience as me, so there's that familiarity. Whereas people here, local people, they didn't leave. They're here. You can meet Vietnamese people that are from other cities, but like I have a Vietnamese friend that says I only want to meet Chung, he's like
Chung.
Yeah, Chung. He's like, I only want to be friends with foreigners because they're interesting, and Vietnamese people are boring. And I had the same sensation in college. My first year in college, I was in Wisconsin, and I would just gravitate towards the international students. This guy's from Cameroon, she's from Colombia, she's from Hong Kong, he's from El Salvador, because they all had interesting stories, and they had to get through so much to be there that they're like, they had their own thoughts and ideas, whereas a lot of people that are in that location were just like, this is the next thing to do, college, I guess. And they were just bland. So I told Trung, I was like, if the Vietnamese people that you meet abroad would be a lot different than the ones. But that's our challenge here, as I call this the paradox. It's a paradox of a world traveler, which is you want novelty, you want to get away from provincialism. If you think about if you would have stayed in your hometown, it would like probably just it's totally antithetical to the path you've chosen. But the very people that you want to meet most being here are those people that never left.
Yeah. I think I see what you mean. That is interesting. I found like immediately when I went abroad, it was super exciting, and I did find that adventure like, wow, I'm experiencing something that nobody other experiences, and like, especially if you stay in one place. I moved around a lot, but now I'm like staying in one place, and I found like the more that I stay in one place, the more that I realize that the culture, deep down, they're the same as me. They're the same as Americans. I mean, if we talk about sincerity, their sincerity comes out in plus or minus, kind of at the end of the day, the same that Americans do. And if it's different, I think it's just because of cultural pressure. You know what I mean? Like maybe if they're more sincere here, or they seem that way, I think it's more because of the culture. Like people are following the culture. So at the end of the day, it's like human beings are kind of the same, but it is very interesting to see the different culture and how it manifests, how these things that are similar between us manifest in a totally unique way, But definitely learning the language, I think, is a testament to our belief that we're all the same. Like you learned Spanish, you didn't just, I assume there's some English speakers there in Spain, right? But you learning the language, I think it shows that you have that belief, right? That we're connected. There's more similarities than differences. And unfortunately, this is kind of a deeper topic that I feel it. It's hard to prove it, but I feel that a lot of Americans, because we're number one country, we tend to think that we're better than other countries. And I think a lot of expats that come to Asia, they talk to me. They never say, like, we are better than Asian people or we are better than the locals. They never say that. But the way that they talk, and they say, like, man, they always do this. And it's like they're separating us and them. And they're like, man, those Vietnamese, they always, or like in China, they're like, the Chinese, man, they always, and it's always like separating, and it's an insecurity. It comes from some kind of, I think it just comes from some kind of self-centered thinking. But I think that what you're talking about is finding you want the novelty, but at the same time you gravitate towards like the locals who've been here the whole time, and I think that makes me appreciate like home more when I start to see that they're similar, and I start to see like, oh, you know what? It's kind of like that story where like the guy goes around. I don't know if this is a real story, but some guy, he travels around the world searching for something, and then he eventually just goes back home and finds it there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think for me, I'm actually at a point where I'm like, am I going to call this place my home? I think if I can get to where my YouTube channel starts and takes off, and I can like go back to the States a few times a year and come back, like, yes, I think I can call it home. But yeah, home is where the heart is. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Home is where the heart is. Yeah.
Yeah, the part of the adventure living abroad is to see the differences and also the similarities. And I think a lot of the conflicts on a global scale, this is also kind of a deeper topic, but I think is rooted in us versus them, divide and conquer. And if we can identify ourselves with just the human race, it makes life so much more enriching, and it also makes it more fun because you can read about the history of Vietnam and identify with the people instead of the governments. Or you can read about the history of Spain and the Spanish Civil War, or the Romans or the Moors, and like it's not like, oh, I'm not from that place, so it has nothing to do with me. It's like you're a human.
Yeah.
There's so many things in common with other humans. And it just a final thing of like, reality is so subjective. So much of what we consider objective reality is subjective. And when you travel, that hypnosis just stops, and you're like, whoa, what? You see things you would have never seen if you just stayed in your hometown. That for me is the core, and that doesn't you don't get that if you just do the what we were talking about before, sort of the go to Cancun for the week and stay at the resort and yeah. But if you go, I say two things: positive attitude and open mind. If you go with those two things, and you just make an attempt to listen and to pause, because I think what you said about Americans, I honestly think most people, I've talked to Spanish people, most of them think their country is the best.
Yeah.
When you talk to Spanish people, they talk about when Columbus discovered America, how their empire was enormous, because that's how they grow up. We grow up through the systems of these governments that tell us, you are the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And, or not you, like this nation, this state.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what countries are. They are these fictions that are enforced through military control. But yeah, and I think that the more we can recognize our just humanity and see the world and see the similarities, we can really have peace within and peace without. Imagine just everybody, not everybody traveling all the time, but everybody was kind of just dispersed and learning from each other, but respecting the differences. Okay, you like that, I like this. I think we would live in a really amazing world, so yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, guys, I want to hear your comments about what we talked about. Any experiences that resonate with you? Write in the comments. Like, subscribe. Thank you again, Ross. The name of your channel is Ross the... I can't pronounce that.
Yeah, well, I have Ross the Flaneur. That's the channel.
Yeah.
And it's a French word meaning a man that wanders around and observes society. But I might leave you it differently because I'm starting a new channel about U.S. expats, people that are from the U.S. living abroad. So, because I think the last time I checked, 65% of Americans don't have a passport. So more than half of us haven't even left.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to learn from those who have, and also from the people that are still in the U.S. to see what is life like on the other side of the border.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
Hopefully leave those links, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the
thanks so
conversation.
much for sharing everything. That was great. All right, guys, take care. Like, subscribe, love, and I'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.